Let me ask you a question. Which of these two applications are you most likely to use for journaling? On the left, we have the default journal application by Apple. And on the right, we have the journaling app called Reflectly. I think many of you agree that the latter is more visually appealing and pleasant to interact with. A digital product with a boring, generic design won't leave a lasting impression, even if it offers unique and useful features. A business without a strong personal brand is just faceless. Following platform design guidelines, on the left, does not necessarily make your application better. On top of that, to be successful, modern businesses are required to meet their potential clients right where they are. Users expect applications to be available on their phones, tablets, and desktops, providing a familiar experience across platforms. Each platform has its own design language recommendations. Blindly following these guidelines when developing an application would lead to a generic product lacking distinction. At the same time, extremely unusual and unique designs may misalign with users' expectations and confuse them. I'm sure you have seen applications that just does not feel right. In this session, we will dive into the topic of prioritizing user experience over platform-specific design. Explore how focusing on users rather on platforms can support the brand identity and improve user satisfaction, and give recommendations on how to implement this in practice in a way that will make your product feel right. My name is Oleksandr Leushchenko. I'm a Google developer expert in Dart and Flutter from Ukraine. I work as a senior staff engineer in the UK fintech company called Tide.
And I'm Anna Leushchenko, an expert in cross-platform mobile development and also a senior staff engineer in the same company. I'm also a Google developer expert in Dart and Flutter. I'll jump later in this session to tell you more about our recommended solution to the challenges Oleksandr has just described.
Usually, when you open a mobile application, you immediately feel some sense of familiarity. You just know how to interact with it. You immediately understand that the area with icons with text at the bottom of the screen is a tab bar that allows you to switch between different pages. Rounded, colorful rectangles with text are buttons you may tap on. And if you swipe from left to right, most probably a previous screen will be opened. Applications behave like that because that's how developers agreed to implement them. Most of the time, we, engineers, use pre-built components that we combine like building blocks to make complex UI. Most of the time, you, users, are frustrated when these building blocks behave not as you expected. It seems like there is an agreement that you understand and feel even if you don't know about it. If the app follows that agreement, it feels native and right. If it violates the contract, it feels wrong, weird, or even frustrating. That contract has a name. We call it the design system. A design system has no universal definition. As Andrew Caldwell puts in his book Laying the Foundation, design systems bring order and consistency to digital products. They help protect the brand, elevate the user experience, and increase the speed and efficiency of how we design and build products. There are a few things that I'd like to highlight in this definition. The design system is about a brand, user experience, and development efficiency. Let's dive into two of the most prominent design systems for mobile development: Apple's Human Interface Guidelines and Google's Material Design. Human Interface Guidelines, or HIG, is a detailed, comprehensive manual that describes each and every aspect of how applications should behave on Apple platforms, from UI controls to accessibility, typography, and general patterns of how it is expected to work with common user actions. Apple enforces these guidelines strictly. If you violate HIG, your application may be rejected during the app's review. The guidelines are changing, so it's your responsibility to keep your applications up to date with the Apple's rules. That's how Apple protects its brand. Speaking of user experience, there is a website called Design Systems for Figma that has links to the UI parts of popular design systems. Let's review what we had there for HIG. As you may see, it is split between many categories. These Figma files describe standard colors, text styles, UI elements, paddings, but the user experience goes beyond UI components. To keep the behavior consistent, you need to think of scroll physics, UI feedback on tap, navigation animation, and so on. The design system is a blueprint that establishes rules. If you want your application to look native and familiar to Apple users, you must follow the HIG. To help with that, Apple provides a robust set of pre-built components that simplify app creation. It is easy and convenient to go with these building bricks and create a new app. But there are two problems with that. First, these components are only available on Apple platforms, and second, they are too Apple. It is not rare when users who never worked with any Apple's product before experience difficulties understanding the UI. Interestingly, many Apple Design Award-winning apps deviate significantly from HIG, showcasing unique and innovative designs. Now let's briefly review another popular design system, Material Design from Google. Just like with the Human Interface Guidelines, Google has a website that describes the design system in detail. You may find a similar detailed guide to UI controls, accessibility, typography, and so on. Unlike Apple, Google is more tolerant of its design system violations, focusing instead on enabling products to create branded experiences. It is very unlikely that your app will be rejected if it does not follow the material design. You may find a link to the Figma files from Material Design on the same Design Systems for Figma website. As you may see, it is very similar to what we have from Apple. However, Google is more focused on helping you build a branded design with Material Design by providing all kinds of builders and references. Google provides pre-built components for web, Android, and Flutter, but not for Apple products. Previously, Google provided iOS UI components, so if you want to use Material Design in a native iOS app, you may either use old Material 2 specifications that had iOS components, or implement the design system independently. How hard it is to implement the design system? Creating a design system from scratch is an extensive process, demanding significant time and resources. First of all, you need to create a specification. Both HIG and Material Design are huge. It took years for big companies like Apple and Google to come up with such comprehensive guidelines. Creating a design system from scratch might be, well, let's say suboptimal. But even having the specification, it will take months, realistically years, to build high-quality, accessible, and easy-to-use from both the developers' and users' perspectives UI components. We highly recommend picking an existing design system and customizing it for your needs. Clearly, you may take whatever design system you like. However, we recommend building on top of the material design. Material design is well documented and provides SDKs for many platforms. It looks familiar on many platforms. Look at the screenshots on the left. There is a mail application from Apple running on an iPhone. And on the right, we have the mail application from Google on the same iPhone. You will not find a single component from the human interface guidelines on the second shot. However, it is still clear how to interact with the application, as material design has become widely recognized and understood. Having the specification is just the beginning. Now you need to implement it. Both Apple and Google provide pre-built components for their operation systems. However, Apple components work only inside the Apple ecosystem, and Google provides components for every platform except Apple's. By applying branded colors and fonts to the pre-built components, you may expect to have some level of consistency in the design. However, it is unlikely that your brand will stand out. To make a non-standard design, you will need to implement the same custom components on each target platform. And then you'll need to spend even more time maintaining these components and keeping them consistent. Having custom components implemented per platform, you'll get the most of the platform's functionality. However, you will need to spend a lot of time and effort in maintenance. The most pragmatic way would be to go with some cross-platform web-based solution and implement a design once and for all platforms. However, usually you may tell whether the app is implemented with a web-like design. Such apps provide a much worse user experience and look foreign on all platforms. Here is an application that pretends to be native. It mimics the platform UI. However, when you interact with it, you immediately feel that something is off. There is another way. The design system may be implemented from scratch, keeping platform guidelines in mind. It may have branded UI, but keep the UX of a platform. For example, a design system may specify how items of a list look like, but the behavior of the list may still be controlled by the platform. That's exactly what Google did with Flutter.
According to the official website, Flutter is an open-source framework by Google for building beautiful, natively compiled, multi-platform applications from a single codebase. Let's break it down. Flutter SDK is a modern React-style UI framework which includes a rich set of UI components implementing material design from Google and components from Human Interface Guideline from Apple, also called Cupertino styles. And it also includes a heavily optimized rendering engine. Flutter allows building applications for Android, iOS, macOS, Linux, Windows, web, and embedded devices. Flutter apps are compiled directly to machine code, whether Intel x64 or ARM instructions, or to JavaScript if targeting the web. To the underlying operating system, Flutter applications are packaged in the same way as any other native application. Flutter apps run on this variety of platforms with little or no change to a single codebase using a single programming language, Dart. And finally, Flutter is a Google's product, although Google is not the only one contributing to it. This is how to describe Flutter in one sentence. However, there is much more to say about each of these aspects. So let me now share more details about what makes Flutter so special. Let's take a button as an example. On native Android, it will be a material button, and on iOS, a Cupertino button. These UI components eventually have access to the canvas to display UI and intercept user interactions. Most cross-platform applications work by creating an abstraction layer over the underlying native UI libraries. The application code is written in one language. It then interacts with some kind of an intermediary bridge, which in turn then interacts with the native UI components and system libraries written in another language. As a result, first, such frameworks struggle to work around the inconsistencies of each platform representation. For example, such a simple thing as a button has a different set of properties in native Android and iOS frameworks. And the API of those components gets richer over time with the release of new versions. So the bridge has to accommodate all these variations in a single, comprehensible, universal API, which is a challenging task. Also, such a bridge adds overhead when there is a lot of interaction between the UI and the app logic, because it has to act as a proxy between the two, passing instructions both ways. Flutter, on the other hand, reduces these abstractions by bypassing system UI widget libraries. The Flutter rendering engine simply allows direct control over every pixel on the screen. And to simplify UI creation, Flutter provides its own library of UI components, which replicates the look and feel of the native ones. This approach has several benefits. It avoids performance bottlenecks by enabling Flutter to compose the entire scene at once without switching back and forth between Flutter code and platform code. It detaches application behavior from operating system dependencies, ensuring the application looks and behaves the same across all operating system versions, even if the UI element implementation changed. And it offers unlimited extensibility, allowing designers and developers to create expressive and flexible UI without limitations. As I mentioned, Flutter offers its own implementations of each UI control rather than using those provided by the operating system. It has implemented buttons, labels, switches, checkboxes, and all the possible UI components from the material design system. And it also offers a lot of UI components from Cupertino styles. So you can have material UI on iOS, you can have Cupertino style on Android, you can have them adapt based on the platform, or you can implement something custom based on one of those themes to better reflect your brand identity. At the same time, Flutter conveniently provides platform-specific adaptations where it is required and expected by end users. For example, here you can see how out of the box the scrolling physics and the overscroll effect of the lists are different, even though the application runs from the same codebase. For Android, it shows a hover effect, while on iOS the list bounces back. Here is another example of how the default page transition animations respect the patterns of the underlying operating system. The page pops up from the bottom on Android and slides from right to left on iOS. Flutter also has many more adaptations like text editing, typography, or haptic feedback. And don't forget that one of Flutter's superpowers is the ability to run applications everywhere where there are pixels on the screen, all from a single codebase. Such an approach allows application designers and developers to focus on designing and building the product with a strong brand identity, and to let Flutter create native-like applications and automatically handle a lot of platform nuances. Those little adaptations are what in fact makes an application feel like native. Because it's not even the UI itself, but certain UX and behavior patterns that influence our perceptions of the application. So instead of thinking of which platform the application is going to run, Flutter allows us, builders, to focus on what experience we want to create for our users. Let's now talk about some big names which choose Flutter to create their digital experiences. Universal Studios created a collection of mobile applications with millions of downloads worldwide. These apps offer detailed maps, personalized guides, and a ton of other functionalities to enhance the experience of visitors of their entertainment parks. They used to have mobile applications created natively, but recognizing the need for a more efficient and comprehensive development process, they decided to rebuild the Universal Studios app from the ground up using Flutter. This rebuild aimed not only to enhance the performance and reliability of the applications, but also to unify the user experience across both Android and iOS. According to the developers, the migration from native to Flutter brought several significant improvements. The development team was able to significantly reduce the size of the codebase. This reduction simplified maintenance, reduced the potential for bugs, and shortened development time. The transition to Flutter resulted in an impressive crash rate of only 0.1%, ensuring that users can rely on the app for a smooth and consistent experience. Flutter Efficient Development Framework allowed the team to shorten the release cycle by 44%. This means that new features, updates, and bug fixes can be rolled out to users much more faster than before. As you may see on the screenshots, the Universal Studio app maintains a consistent appearance on both iOS and Android devices. Despite utilizing material design components, the app does not look like a typical Android application. This was achieved by implementing a custom theme and branded UI with unique components. These design choices help the app stand out while still respecting the native platform-specific UX, ensuring that it feels intuitive and familiar to users on both platforms. They balanced custom design elements with native adaptations done out of the box by Flutter, which results in the app that provides a seamless, engaging, and highly functional guide for all visitors to Universal Studio parks. The My BMW app is another good example of how modern cross-platform development technologies enhance user experience, streamline app development, and contribute to the company's brand. The app serves both BMW and Mini customers, providing them with a wide range of functionalities to manage their vehicles. Back in 2018, BMW recognized a growing problem: the disparity in features and design between their iOS and Android applications. This inconsistency was leading to a fragmented user experience and potentially lower customer satisfaction. The challenge was to deliver the same functionality and a unified experience across both platforms, without raising costs or slowing down the pace of feature development. So they also chose to rebuild it with Flutter. The design of the My BMW app shows a thoughtful balance between customization and familiarity. While the app is heavily inspired by material design principles, again, it doesn't resemble a typical Android application. Instead, it features numerous custom UI components that reinforce the BMW brand identity and make the app distinctive. At the same time, styled material design components are used to maintain a sense of familiarity for users, so that the app feels intuitive and easy to navigate. According to the developers, this strategic move to Flutter has enabled BMW to deliver a superior and consistent app experience to all its customers while maintaining an efficient and agile development process. Tide, the company where we work, is a financial services platform for small and medium businesses with 10% market share in the UK and also operating in India and Germany. Originally, we also had native mobile applications. The native approach had its benefits. However, we struggled with the same problems as other companies like BMW I mentioned. The biggest one being feature disparity. To address this challenge, we decided to migrate our mobile stack to Flutter. We replicated the existing UX UI, so this transition was mostly seamless for our users. By adopting Flutter, Tide ensured that applications maintained a consistent look and feel, irrespective of the underlying technology change. Tide design system is based on material design principles. But with numerous custom-branded UI components, it ensures that our digital products align with Tide's unique branding. The design system is consistent across mobile and web platforms, which allows Tide to deliver a familiar user experience regardless of the device being used. One of the key advantages of Flutter for Tide is the ability to use the same source code base across multiple mobile applications. This not only simplifies development, but also ensures that all of Tide's applications, regardless of platforms and target audience, offer the same high-quality user experience. Despite our codebase having more than 2 million lines of code, maintaining design consistency is made easier by a mature and well-defined design system. At Tide, we use the same UI components implementations for different platforms. The trick lies in their behavior. While the UI can be braided to suit Tide's identity, the UX is platform-specific. As I explained previously, Flutter's platform adaptations make it the perfect framework to implement such behavior, ensuring that the app feels native to both iOS and Android users. Like other successful migrations to Flutter, Tide has achieved feature parity across all platforms. This means that all users, regardless of their device, have access to the same features. Flutter has significantly optimized Tide's time to market for new features and updates, allowing us to maintain a competitive edge in the fast-paced digital banking sector. By the way, last year at WeAreDevelopers World Congress 2023, together with my boss, I already shared a story of Tide's transformation journey from native mobile development to Flutter. We highlighted the challenges we faced, the solutions we implemented, and the objectives we have achieved for our business and engineering team. Check it out on my YouTube.
Platform manufacturers are interested in deeply platform-specific apps. While to make your company's brand stand out, it's in your best interest to have a highly branded app. At the same time, users are interested in highly branded apps that feel native. We recommend taking an existing design system, like material design from Google, and adapting it to your product needs. And we believe Flutter is a great framework that makes following this approach a breeze.